Hello, everyone, and welcome into Cardinals Weekly. I'm Ahmad Hicks.
And I'm Corey Miller. The Cardinals had a pretty impressive week on the diamond, and there's some intriguing news that concerns a former Cardinal we're going to get to, and get some insight from Mike Claiborne this week. So first up, let's lead off. All right, so over the past week, we saw the Cardinals sweep the Pirates and split with the Mets. Like to get one more there, probably of those two games they lost. Another impressive outing over the weekend for Carlos Martinez, who we're going to talk about first here. 8 innings, no runs against the Pirates. He's got a .84 ERA in his last 3 starts, over 21 in the third inning. Ahmad, we always talk, we never know what we're going to get from Carlos, but recently it's been very, very good.
I think what we're seeing is a locked-in Carlos. I think that's the easiest way to put it. This guy, I think, had a lot to think about last year and the way things ended with that season last year, the pandemic-shortened season. And I think he's motivated this year. This is a guy who said he wanted to be a starter. There were questions coming into spring training if he would be that. He got an opportunity due to injuries, and he's seizing it right now. And that's what you love to see from Carlos, because that bullpen needs him.
Definitely, for sure. Elsewhere in the rotation, Adam Wainwright made some news for not pitching, going on the COVID IL, then coming back off. He explained what happened after his start back here against the Mets. He had to go home and take care of his family. They all got COVID, and his wife said, "Hey, I need you here." He went home. I mean, everybody loves Wainwright so much already, but he goes and he says he does this, and it's just you got to love him even more.
I think every woman in St. Louis loved him even more after the way he talked about his wife and how he said she was the hero of the house and how she wore so many different hats and how filling the void for her was so much work. And, he was glad to do it, but she was a true, hero for their family. So I thought that was really cool. And I know even when I got home, my mom was just like, all moms are heroes. And I was like, I know, you're right. Can't argue that.
Here's a little bit of what Wainwright had to say about going home to help his family.
It was a little different. Yeah, it was a little different. And this goes out to all the mothers out there because, wow, when you have, especially when you have as many kids as I do, she does so much, and you know that, but you don't know it until you got to do all the stuff, And I was just telling Schulte and Marmal that several times at the end of the night I'd folding laundry and doing my 7th load of laundry and worried about all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Dad, we're hungry," and I'm like, "It's dinner time." Dang it! And so you eat stuff maybe I wouldn't have eaten before, and the kids were loving it, and I was out there dragging my behind all night, and I'm sure that played a little bit into it, but there was a time that this last week that we got back from the road, and I went straight to a hotel because all my whole crew had it. And my wife, she texted me at one point and just said, I can't go anymore without you being here. And so I had to go. That's why I had to go home. And when my wife says that, she's a tough lady. She's a really tough girl. And so when she said that, I knew I had to go home. And yeah, she needed me there. So I'm glad I got to help out. But I miss her. She's just an incredible woman. She's an incredible person, incredible wife, incredible mom, and you don't really realize how much they do until you got to fill that void. And gosh, just what a blessing she is to me.
Another boost offensively this past week have been Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader. Bader back off the IL. The average isn't necessarily there, but they're hitting some bombs. They're driving in runs. I think that's good enough for what you're asking right now. Don't you think, Ahmad?
Another guy who's motivated. He had to listen to everybody the first couple of weeks of the season, just write him off into the past as if Dylan Carlson was going to take his spot. There wasn't going to be room for Bader. We were all going to have to trade him. He comes back and he flexes his muscles. He's like, "You said what?" He's like, "I'm still here." Okay. Like he said 2 years ago, "I'm the starting center fielder." He's playing like it. Now, I mean, is he swinging the bat the way fans want to see him swing the bat? No, but he's doing good enough to get by and to be in the lineup on each and every night. So, I mean, we can't be mad at that, can we?
I mean, if he's popping a few home runs and playing the caliber defense he knows how to play, that's going to be good enough for me.
Exactly.
And hey, we've seen how he doesn't contribute on offense at all in the past. If at least he can just hit a few home runs, that's good enough. So
Exactly.
We'll see how Bader can keep it up going forward. Obviously, some rough news this week. Jordan Hicks going on the IL with right elbow inflammation. John Mozeliak saying he's going to be out for at least a month. Really stinks because this is one of the most exciting guys in the league. You want to see him out there, especially concerning after Tommy John surgery in the 2019 season. But somebody's got to step up here, Ahmad. Who do you think it's going to be in the bullpen?
Well, I think Alex Reyes is going to continue to shoulder the load on the back end. I mean, that guy is just playing like lights out right now. Like, it's not pretty every time you see him, as somebody else who, will say later on in this show, but he gives you a lot of passion when he plays, and he plays with heart. And I think he's a guy that's hungry and he wants to do well. And I think you also want to be able to rely on a guy like John Gant. Who knows if he's going to be in the starting rotation for long, but he's looking pretty good. So if you can plug him into the bullpen, maybe he can eat up some of those innings. So I think there will be a lot of questions coming up, especially when Michaelis makes his return. So a lot of good questions, though, because it seems like the Cardinals have plenty of arms right now.
That's a good point. With Michaelis working his way back, we could see Gant in the bullpen here soon. As we sit here recording this, Cardinals are 4 games over 500, first place in the NL Central. Pretty much every team in the league is hovering around that 500 mark. What do we think about where they are in the standings so far? Honestly, I think they're a half game away from having the best record in all of baseball, which sounds crazy because it hasn't really been a consistent start, but it's at the top of the league right now.
Well, let's think about it. You have a starting rotation that's been putting up solid numbers. That was giving up 3 earned runs or less, for 4 or 5 consecutive starts. You have a batting order that's finally starting to live up to expectations. Tommy Edman is getting on base. Dylan Carlson is moving him over. Then you have Goldie and Arenado bringing those guys home. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And we all said before the season started, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and all the pieces are fitting together, this is a team that's going to win the NL Central by a landslide and be very competitive with the rest of the major leagues. And so that's exactly what we're seeing. I think it's just so surreal right now because they started off so slow. The bullpen was bad. I mean, the starting rotation was bad. People were hurt. The bats were awful. And it's like, did we make any progress this offseason? But now everybody's starting to see that progress that we saw and expected, at the beginning of the season.
The plans coming into shape there. Beat up on those bad teams, hang in there against the really good teams, and you should be all right this year. Last but not least, we got to talk about the big news. We're recording this on Thursday, of course. This morning we hear the Angels are designating Albert Pujols for assignment. So that set off St. Louis, as I'm sure nobody is too surprised about. Albert hitting under 200. He was hitting the ball hard, though. He had 5 home runs this year. Wasn't getting the playing time he would have liked. Angels home around $30 million, but they're going to cut him loose and let somebody else try and take him. I'll tell you, I was pretty surprised when I heard this because they've gone with it this long. They know what kind of player he is by now. I thought they were just going to ride it out till the end of the year, but not so much. He's going to end up on the open market, 33 home runs away from 700, and he wants to get there. I am really interested to see where he ends up because somebody's going to take him.
I agree with you. I didn't see that news coming, but I'm also not surprised. That's a lot of money that man is getting paid. And in order to see him get that home run streak, you're looking at the rest of the season playing pretty much every day, and you're looking at the start of next season at least halfway. Can he reach that mark? It's possible, but man, where's he going to go where he's playing every day? I'm not sure.
So I think you and I would both love to see him as a Cardinal again, but I think both you and I realize it's probably not a great idea. I wrote a commentary on KSDK.com. If you're watching this, you want to go read it. Why it's not quite the right time yet for the Cardinals and Pujols to have to reconnect. I think Kansas City, Chicago, Oakland, Seattle, someplace in the American League where he can DH, get some at bats, try and get closer to 700. Then maybe next year when he's only 10. Maybe 8 home runs away from 700. He comes back to the Cardinals. Maybe there's a National League DH. They make something happen there.
As long as we don't pay him $15 million a year, we're good. All right, because if that's the case, they need to go get a pitcher.
Anywhere he's going, he's not going to be making a whole lot, but he'll end up somewhere. Something I have seen, which I kind of like. I don't know if he can play first base on a regular basis anymore. Colorado's got nothing to play for. Send him to Colorado. Send him to Colorado up in the mountains. See how many home runs he can hit. Yeah, see how many home runs he can hit at Coors Field and see how close he can get to 700. He'll bring fans out. They need fans there anyways. They got no reason to go to the game anymore, so that would be fun.
All right, and we've got a treat this week. Our spotlight interview is the one and only Mike Claiborne of KMOX and ClaibsOnline. A pleasure to have you with us on Cardinals Weekly this week.
Well, it's an honor to be on with you guys. I've heard a lot of great things about your program, so I'm glad to be part of it.
Well, you're just going to help us boost it to the next level. So why don't we go ahead and get started then? Let's dive in with some Cardinal questions, of course, this year, but hopefully some other fun questions that we'll get to a little later on. Let's start with this one. We have to get to the big news in baseball today. The Angels designating Albert Pujols for his assignment. What was your reaction when you first heard the news?
Well, I was surprised that it took this long. He'd not been an effective player over there for the last 2 or 3 years, but I know they had a lot of money they were trying to pay him. And, obviously he broke some records and achieved some milestones. And, there was a time that he was probably worth the price of admission. And you have to remember the Angels have never had a marquee guy like that before Mike Trout. And so it didn't work out, but, his skills had diminished dramatically over the last few years. I watched him the other night, and he can't catch up to the fastball. He's a mistake hitter now. He can't run very well. I mean, it's just that time, man. It catches up to everybody, and he's no different. I think that when you look at what he was able to do for St. Louis, maybe the best thing that ever happened was the fact that he went to Anaheim or LA, because I don't think the Cardinals would have been able to do the things they've been able to do in the last 10 years contractually, because they would have had this anchor tied around their neck. But if he was playing in the National League, they would have made a deal by now, because his career would have been over at least 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, I was going to ask you what's next, but it seems like maybe retirement is on your mind. Do you think he sticks around and plays?
Well, there's always somebody who thinks they can get a jump start, but, you have to remember, he only has X amount of teams that could actually put him on a roster. He can't play in the National League. So you have to look at the American League, and he wants to play every day, which he can't do. So maybe he's a DH. He hasn't been able to do that with any consistency. I just think it's going to be hard to do. I really do. And even when you talk about the White Sox, I know everybody says, well, Tony will bring him back. Well, Tony's got his own problems up there right now, as far as how the media and how things are going with that ball club, and especially in the clubhouse. So I'm not sure if that's even going to work. Albert's been a great player, but his numbers, when he left St. Louis, he hit 328 career. He's in Anaheim, and he's in the 290s now. I mean, that's a significant drop over the last few years, over the last 10 years. So I really think it's over.
All right. Now let's talk about some Cardinal news. Now, we had you on Sports Plus when we got Nolan Arenado, and that was a big hype around town. Everybody was excited. Now that he's here, now that he's played a couple of games and you've spoken with him, what do you think about that acquisition?
I think he's worth every dollar that they're paying him. The Cardinals have 2 guys on this team that are worth the price of admission, that you want to go out and watch play. Yep. And I think Arenado's at the top of the list, and I think Tommy Edman is the other player. Now, that doesn't mean that the other guys aren't good players, but both of those guys do something special every day. Fundamentally, they may be the 2 most sound players we have on the team. And I'll throw Paul Goldschmidt in that conversation, and Yachty. But everyday guys at the prime of their careers, and Edman still has a way to go before he hits his prime. But I think Arenado has created such an impact, not only dressing room wise, but just his presence on the field. He wants to play. He works hard. I was having dinner with Ozzie Smith recently, and it dawned on me that I watched a lot of guys play baseball in St. Louis, but the work that Nolan Arenado puts in before games and after games reminds me of Ozzie Smith and how he used to conduct himself. And I haven't said that very often in all the guys I've had a chance to watch play, but I think that's how good he is, and I think he can even be better.
That's good company right there. Well, let's talk about this starting rotation right now, because at the beginning of the season, things were shaky. It looked like a roller coaster at times. But after a couple turns through now, everybody's kind of living up to those expectations. Who has surprised you so far?
Well, that's a good question. I think Carlos Martinez, only because he's been more consistent than we've seen in the last couple of years. I've always felt Carlos had the best stuff on the team. This guy could throw 5, maybe 6 pitches for strikes, okay? He can give you 98. He can give you 78. He can throw you cutters, cutting both ways on the plate. He's got a great changeup. He's got a really good sinker. And, he's got a nice curveball. And with that said, when he's locked in, he's pretty hard to beat. And we've seen him in the last few games pitch around trouble, maintain composure, and just bear down on guys. And that doesn't mean he has to strike out 15 guys every night. He gets a strikeout when he needs it, but he also has the ability to make them hit his pitch, which normally is a ground ball.
Now, we talked about the starters, but we have to talk about how you end the game with the closer. Alex Reyes still hasn't allowed an earned run this season. I mean, what is his ceiling? I mean, what can that really be this season?
That's a great question. And let's just stay in this year's lane. I thought when the Cardinals announced that they wanted him to get about 100 innings, I thought he'd be a guy that would be a fireman. He'd come in the 6th inning, maybe there was some trouble, and he pitched 6, 7, and 8, and here comes Jordan Hicks to close out the 9th, or Gallegos, or whoever you wanted to use. It obviously didn't work that way. So now you've relegated him to be a 1-inning closer. I mean, I'm sure he could go 2. But is that the big goal for Alex Reyes, who wants to be a starter? The money in between a starter and a closer is significantly different. I think he's more valuable as a starter, but he's found a home with this closing role. And I think when you've seen him, Ahmad, you've watched him, one of the things about him is that every inning is not a clean inning. He'll walk a few, he'll make it interesting. There's no question. And I think that's just more from an anxiety element where he's squeezing it a little too tight. He hurries his delivery, and his mechanics get a little wobbly, and he'll spike a pitch or two. But when he's right, he's pretty darn good because he's got multiple pitches he can get you out on.
He sure does play with a lot of emotion. Now, that'll do it for the first part of our questions. Now, Corey has some on a lighter side that we want to get to ask you about. Yeah.
Is this kind of like hit and miss, or one of
hit and run?
Hit and run, yeah. I was half
similar.
Right.
It's similar.
Yeah. All right. Frank's got hit and run. We got some quick hits, but I know we're gonna want to expand on some of these a little bit. So don't feel like you got to go rapid fire here. First up, who's been the most intimidating interview of your career? Who have you stepped in there and you're like, oh man, I'm really interviewing this guy, or maybe it took a turn that was intimidating?
I haven't had one. I think that I've had some people that I was in awe of, and maybe I was a little nervous about. But, I've never had a person that I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I've been lucky. And I'll give you a good example. Frank Robinson, the great late Frank Robinson, who was reputed to be a very difficult person and a very difficult interview. And the Cardinals are playing in Washington, and he was there for a playoff game. And so he held a little media scrum with about 20 or 30 guys. And so I go to the PR guy and I said, hey, anyway, you think I can get Frank Robinson one-on-one? He was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, he's a blank. Okay. So now I'm like, okay, well, we're going to see about that. So when the interview is over, I said, excuse me, Frank, I'm Mike Claiborne with the Cardinals. And, I was wondering if I can get 5 minutes with you. Man, you just saw me talking to those guys for 20 minutes. Now you want to, why should I talk to you? I said, because you and I share something that's very near and dear to both of us. He said, what's that? The game of baseball? I said, no, the Los Angeles Lakers. He looked at me and he said, what are you, a Kobe fan? I said, Frank, I go way back on the Lakers. He said, how far back do you go? I said, I knew who the center was before Wilt got there. He said, who? I said, CJ Kupek. He said, you got your 5 minutes. And we talked, and I knocked it off at about 4:50. And he said, that's all you got? I said, well, you only told me I had 5 minutes and I didn't want to waste my time. He said, keep it going, man. And but I had been warned that he could be difficult. But the other person who I was a little intimidated by, and I wouldn't say in a negative sense, but because I idolized him, was Julius Erving, who could not have been a nicer person, elegant, classy. I've gotten to know him much better over the years, and he hasn't changed one bit.
That's really cool. So move away from intimidating. Who is the best soundbite that you continually have gone back to through the years? Who's the guy? Okay, I need something witty. I need something
now you
that's
sound like Frank. That's how, the only way people can get to heaven, according to Frank, is if they were a good soundbite. That's a good question, man. I'm trying to think. Julius Erving is pretty good. He always had something interesting to say. Sugar Ray Leonard was good. Boy,
Who's the Cardinals guy that maybe every time you went to him, you knew you were going to get something good?
That's an even better question.
Besides Wayno.
Yeah, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayno, Wayno just puts it on a tee for you. I mean, it's just too easy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Man, and I interview a guy after every game. I'm just trying to think of somebody who was fun. Let's come back to that one because I got to chew on that one a little bit because they all, here's the thing. They all kind of sound the same after a while. I'll give you a good example. John Jay, his answers were so structured. He sounded like a hockey player. We just want to go out and work hard. We just want to do this, just like hockey players talk. But yeah, nobody, we haven't had like that dynamic guy that, you always wanted to go to him because he was going to say something insightful. Miles Michaelis can be that way. He's a pretty insightful guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's a fun one. I mean, I've been listening to these since I was a little kid. I didn't always know what everybody was talking about, but live at Shannon's after the game, some of my favorite times listening to that. Who's the most interesting, or who did you have the best time with guest-wise on the live at Shannon's?
That's a good one. I'll give you a list. Bill White and Bob Gibson. Keith Hernandez is always good.
I've heard of Keith Hernandez one before. It was fantastic.
And I'll give you one that nobody even talks about. Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson was anti-media, right? I mean, he didn't do interviews. I mean, I think you guys have all remembered some of his encounters with the media. So he wanted to meet Gibson. Mike set it up. So he said, hey, man, if I can ever do anything. He said, well, as a matter of fact, you can. I do a radio show at my restaurant, and this is Johnson's last year, right? And he said, oh, okay. So he comes over, and it's only an hour show. We get him loosened up, and he is going for a while. And when we're done, he says, that's it? That's all we got? I said, yeah, it was only an hour. He said, no, it couldn't have been an hour. He was who's the number one guy? Bob Uecker. Uecker, Joe Torre is another good one. Those guys were classics. And Joe Madden. Joe Madden was a good one as well.
I heard someone listening or talking about how he growing up listening to KMOX. I remember that interview with you guys. That was a good one. Let's stay on the Mike Shannon theme. 50th and final year in the booth. What's your go-to favorite PG-13 Mike Shannon story that you can share with us?
Okay, we're in Houston, and I'm doing the game with Mike. And he says, hey, big boy, what time are you going to the ballpark? I said, I'm going to go early. I want to get there around 2 o'clock. You don't need to go that early. I rented a car. I mean, we can drive over whenever we want to. So it's like 120 degrees outside that day. And he's got the air conditioner turned down to like 12 degrees. Okay. I'm freezing. Nipples protruding from my shirt. That's how cold it was. So we get to the ballpark, and this is a car. This is the first year that you had the push button. You didn't have a key. So you push it, step on the brake, push it, off we go. So we get to the ballpark, and we do the game. And we get there around 3:30. So when the game is over, we run into LaRusso. He said, what are you guys going to do? And he said, probably go back to the hotel. No, we're going to go to dinner. You did the game tonight with Mike, and come on, we're going to dinner. So we go to the parking lot. And so the parking lot is empty, and there's our car. And as we get closer, I look at this water, and I said, maybe it rained. Because, we played inside a dome. So I said, maybe it rained while we were inside. So as I get closer, I look on the windshield, and there's like a sheet of ice, a cake of ice. And I realize, I think this car's been running since we've been in the ballpark. So we get in the car. It's like sub-zero in this car now, right? And so Jim Jackson, our engineer, is with us. And so Mike is like, well, I'll be, and now we know something classic is going to come out. He said, would you look at this gas gauge? This thing didn't burn any gas at all. This is a good car. So now you think this is going to be a story that what happens on the road stays on the road. Jim, Mike, and I will take this story to the grave. So we get to dinner. We're having dinner with LaRussa and some other friends, and they're telling stories about some of the times they've stepped in it. And so Mike says, well, I got one for you. And he tells the story about what we just were part of. So I look at Jim Jackson like, well, I guess this one's free. This is a free one. Now he starts to tell the story. So that's one of my favorites. I love the stories that he tells me about when he was playing. And one of my favorite Mike Shannon stories is about Richie Allen, the great Richie Allen, the late great Richie Allen, who should be in the Hall of Fame, reputed to be maybe one of the strongest men to ever play the game. So Mike tells a story that they're in a ballpark in Philadelphia 2 stadiums ago called Connie Mack. It was like 430, 440 to center field. And beyond the center field wall, there's like a flagpole about another 50, 60 feet away. So Mike tells a story that it's oppressively hot, no wind going through the ballpark. And they have a pitcher named Nelson Briles. Cardinals have a pitcher impeccably dressed all the time. Kind of dresses like a mod, always looking sharp.
Right? My man.
And so Nelson Briles, as Mike said, had a curveball he was proud of. Okay, he just thought this curveball was just the catch me out. So as they go over the hitters meeting, they say, hey, whatever you do, don't throw Richie Allen a breaking ball. He can hurt you with it. And he said, well, he's never seen a curveball like mine. So Nelson Briles proceeds to hang one to Richie Allen, and he hits a rocket, a line drive that's about 40 feet, maybe off the ground, maybe 40 feet. And Mike's playing center field. He said, I never moved. I turned and I watched it. And as it went by the flagpole, which was limp, he said, I could have swore I saw the flag move when the ball went by the flagpole. So he said they found the ball like 600 feet away. And so when they get to the dugout, everybody wants to hear Mr. Nelson Briles, what's he got to say about this? And he towels himself off, takes a deep breath, looks around. He says, well, I guess you guys are right. He can hit a curveball. And everybody just howled. So that's one of my favorite Mike stories that I can tell in this format. But, just to touch on him, as wonderful of a person as you've heard on the air all these years as he is in person, a very giving, very kind person. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. My career I'd be doing something else. Always supportive and just fun to be around on the road. Do I have time for one more Mike Shannon story? I just realized
I could sit here and listen to you tell a Mike Shannon story.
So here we go. So we're in Chicago, and we go out. What else do you do when you're in Chicago? We went out and we hit a few spots. So we realize it's very late. And so we get back to the hotel and he says, hey, we got a tea time this morning. And I said, yeah, it's I think I said it's 8:00. Oh no, it's 9:00. He said, all right, I'll see you down in the lobby at 8:30, big boy. And I'm like, all right. So when I get to the lobby, I check and it's actually 8:00. So I call his room and I said, hey, Mike, we got to get out of here, man. Our tea time is at 8:00. And he was taking a bath, right? He said, all right, I'll be right down. So he's rushing down. We get to the course. And so now we're on the course. We're at about the 8th hole. And Mike's playing well that day. And this guy comes out in a golf cart. And he says, hey, either one of you guys, Mike Shannon? He said, yeah, that's me. He said, well, the hotel you're staying in just called. And apparently you left the bathtub running. And the 2 floors below you are now taking on water. And so Mike says, well, that's their problem because I'm 2 under on the front 9 and I'm not giving it up to go back and turn the water off.
Oh, that's
Mike shot a really good score that day. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. But you know what? They don't make him any better than him. He's as good of a teammate as you'll ever have. And, he's lost a lot of good friends recently in Bob Gibson and Lou Brock. And he and Bob were very close. And, I don't know. I guess his closest teammate now is probably Bill White.
Fittingly going into the Cardinals Hall of Fame this year. That'll be a good moment for sure. I got 2 more for you before we let you go. Other than Busch Stadium, what's your favorite venue to watch a baseball game in? Or what's your favorite road trip of the season?
Oh, that's easy. San Diego.
Mm.
You're adjacent to the ballpark, your hotel, you walk over a little skywalk, you're in the ballpark. The weather's always the same every night. The gas lamp district is about a half a block away, so you can eat and drink yourself silly and not worried about having to catch a bus the next day. When it comes to scenery, physical scenery, not of the female persuasion, I would say Pittsburgh's got a great backdrop. San Francisco has a great backdrop. Those are my two favorites as far as just the aesthetics of the facility. But San Diego, we go San Diego. We used to do 3 cities. It would be San Diego, LA, San Francisco. It's normally like San Diego, LA, Arizona now. But those are some of my favorite ballparks. Seattle is good too. We have only been there a few times, but I like going to Seattle. It's a great ballpark, great city.
How many stadiums do you think you've been in by now?
I've been to all of them except the one in Texas.
Probably a few
That's brand new
times over now.
Yeah, there's some places I've been to a couple of times, and they've been new stadiums. And it's cool. I've been blessed, man. I've been doing this. This is year 40 for me, being in the business, and I've seen a lot, and I've done a lot, and I've had great opportunities to go to some of the greatest venues in the world. And now that you see the new ones come online, you say, okay, I am getting old, because I remember this place when it was there, and they had this going and that going. So it's been a real honor to be able to do those things. There's some facilities that I never have to go back to again. There's some places that, if I ever have to go back to Cincinnati, that's okay. I mean, it's okay town, but I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Wrigley Field's kind of like that. Wrigley Field's kind of a dump. I'll tell you where I'm never going again is Boston. I wouldn't go there.
Really?
If my kids were being held hostage there, I said, well, I got pictures. I remember. and I'm going to tell you why. So in 2000, what was that, 12, we go to the World Series?
13.
And we are in a hotel where mice were running across the hallway, going from one room to another. And I called the front desk about it.
Yeah, Corey, do you remember Stanley Cup Boston? Yeah, we had a similar situation.
I'm never, ever going back there. And I said,
we were prepping to do a live shot there one night, and I just remember something flying like underneath my feet, and I just remember running. I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "We don't see this in St. Louis."
Well, they say they've had a rodent problem for years there, and it was the Sheraton that we stayed at, and so I called the front desk and said, "Hey, look, we got a problem here, man." Oh yeah, we know, but they didn't do anything about it, and so then we had to come back for the next 2 games. Same thing. So this is when Twitter had just kind of gotten started, right? And I decided I was going to have me a Twitch storm that night. And I was just pummeling them. And so I get a call from the front desk, and he says, I understand you have a problem. I said, yeah, I told you about it. He said, well, what can we do about it? I said, give me another hotel room. He said, we can't find one. I said, what do you mean? He said, everything's sold out. He said, there's one that's like $430 a night. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. But no, I'm never going back there.
It's a lot of money for one room.
Last one before we let you go. We know you're a big Blues guy too. Who wins the next St. Louis championship, the Blues or the Cardinals?
Okay, Frank. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Blues, because they're closer to have won it. And if they get in the playoffs, and I think they will, they're going to make it interesting. If they get out of the first round, they're going to make it very interesting for everybody else in the conference. And if they get to the finals, as we know, anything can happen. They're only going to be as good as a goaltending. If Bennington plays well, then they got a chance. If Bennington played like he did most of the season, they'll be able to watch the rest of the playoffs at home on TV.
Now we're going to head down on the farm, and we actually have a farm to head down to now because the minor leagues are back for the first time since 2019. A lot of good action here in the first couple of days. A couple of Cardinals third basemen making some noise. We talked about Nolan Gorman on here before. Yeah. I think in our first Down on the Farm segment, he made a great defensive play in Springfield. But there's another guy who's a level lower in Single A, Palm Beach, who's making some noise too. Jordan Walker, 18 years old. The Cardinals just drafted him in 2019, and in his first his first professional at bat, he did this what you're watching right now, that's a home run on his first pitch he saw, Ahmad.
I mean, that's unreal just to think about the age of 18 years old, that swing, that stride, that form, and just that strength that he has at the age of 18 years old. I was looking at that video the other night and I was just thinking, like, where was this strength and size when I was in high school? Like, I was a scrawny 6-foot guy weighing $160, and this guy is swinging the ball, knocking the balls out the park. It's pretty impressive to see. And it's also great to see things down the road because, Arenado won't be here forever. Goldschmidt won't be here forever. But you think about a Jordan Walker and a Nolan Gorman, and you're like, well, okay, all right, we can replace those guys. We
already got Cardinals fans on Twitter figuring out how they're going to get Gorman, Walker, and Arenado into the same lineup. But
man,
6'5", he's 220. I mean, he had another hit in that first game too. I mean, I think this kid is definitely the real deal. And I hate jumping on prospects too early because it is kind of a crapshoot. But I think we can tell that this kid has got some special stuff going on. He worked with Jose Oquendo at the alternate site during 2020 when they weren't playing baseball too. So, he's only going to get better defensively if he keeps that up.
Yep. And that will conclude another week of Cardinals Weekly with your host, Corey Miller. I'm Ahmad Hicks. Hope you all have a great week, and we will see you all next week.